It's gotta be against the law to look this damn good. Watch out now. Cause baby, I feel real good and I wish I would. Watch out now. It's gotta be against the law to look this damn good. Watch out now. Everybody watch out. Watch out now. I'm ready for a good time and I came to groove. The whole band's here and we came to move.
Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to the Business Over Beer podcast. I am Ben Surratt, and I am so excited because I get to interview somebody I haven't seen probably in 30 years, I think. It's crazy. Heather Beck. Heather, what's up?
Hey man, it's crazy. I'm excited to connect this way because it's like, you know, we've grown up, but we definitely have a lot of memories together. So it's surreal, very surreal. So thanks for having me.
Heck yeah, it's gonna be awesome. So for people who don't know you, and I don't really know you that well either anymore.
Yeah, it's been a long time, yeah.
Who is Heather Beck?
A high level Heather is business owner. I owned, I guess we'll talk about that today, but I ran a very large boarding, training, and daycare facility for dogs for about 22 years called Canine Lifeline. I also have a dog product line with some unique training tools that I designed and invented that sell all over the world. A company called Heather's Heroes, which kind of evolved, like it was part of Canine Lifeline, but I was actually featured on the TV show The Profit with Marcus Lemonis. It's basically, if people are not familiar with him or the show, it's like a super intense version of Shark Tank. So we filmed over 5 months. So a very, very intensive, TV show, but a very intensive reality TV show. And that's kind of where the title and the name Heather's Heroes came about and divulged into its own company. So those are the two companies that I'm running now. And Canine Lifeline, I literally just sold a couple weeks ago after 22 years, which is insane and something that I'm still adjusting, and it's scary and it's sad and it's weird. So we'll have a little something to talk about there because I just thought I would do it forever.
Yeah, I mean, like this is one thing that a lot of business owners that at least we've talked to have never really, it's not thought about, is how to sell your business and the steps you need to take to sell your business.
Yeah,
but we'll get into that. We'll get into all that for sure.
It's a lot, man. It's a lot. So
yeah,
it's a process. So I have a lot of info, man. A lot of info.
Awesome. So to keep on brand, I'm not doing a dry January because I just think that's setting myself up for failure. But I'm doing a take it easy January. Nice. So I'm drinking a Surreal. It's called Surreal Brewing. It's called Juicy Mabs Hazy IPA. It's an NA beer. So we'll see.
Well, there you go. Yeah. So today I am enjoying, because I am doing dry January because I've just been, I was in Belize and then I was in Belize, but I was in Belize like right before that. So then I went back for New Year's. So I definitely drank enough for like the entire year. So today I am actually going to be enjoying a Red Bull Zero. If you like Red Bull, but you are not familiar with the Red Bull Zero, it is a great option. So this is one of my favorites. So not as sweet, and it but makes me gives me wings. So
I was going to say, it still gives you wings.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's see how this goes.
I already cracked mine. I couldn't wait. I needed my wings.
Right. Well, you're in Belize. You had to wake up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, on a side note, I've been to Belize a couple times. And the last time I was there, I couldn't believe how many houses were being built by like Americans.
Yeah, it's insane.
What
part? Where were you at? Were you in Ambergris Key or on the mainland?
I was on the mainland. I was on a tour on a cruise.
Okay. So yeah.
And they took us in to get all the monkeys and all that stuff and the sloths.
Yeah, lots going on there. Yeah, no, it's an amazing place. I love it. I've spent a lot of time there, and actually I was featured on an episode of House Hunters International, when I bought the condo that I have there. So I've had that for like 10 years, and that was filmed like 10 years ago. And every once in a while, the episode still comes up, which is really interesting. And people be like, "Oh my God, there, Heather, I saw you on House Hunters." I was like, "Okay, yeah, yeah." So it comes up every
Crazy that
once in
you
a
were
while.
on there.
Yeah,
Is it
yeah.
weird to see yourself on TV?
It was, but I actually have done it quite a few times now. I was also on another TV show called The Blocks. I was a judge. It's a show about entrepreneurs. And so I kind of got to like flip the switch. So I think once you see yourself, like it's really weird because you're not used to seeing like all angles of yourself, even if you're
Yeah.
filmed a lot. But when you're on TV and geez, like, high definition, like you definitely, it takes a little while to adjust. But yeah, I got used to it. That was one of the first introductions, and that was like 10 years ago, but I've done a lot of stuff since then. So it gets easier.
I think it'd be weird. I think I saw you for the first time, like before I even started following you on like, we've been Facebook friends forever.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
before I really started stalking you on Facebook, I saw you on
Thank you.
TV and I
Yeah.
forgot what it was. Was it the Dog Whisperer?
I wasn't on any of the shows with Caesar. I worked with Caesar for 3 years as one of his trainers doing these Training Caesar Way workshops.
But
But
was
it
that
probably
filmed and used in a promo for him or something?
definitely
I
could
don't
have been.
know.
I kind of forget. Like I forget all the fun things that we've done, but yeah, I've probably shown up in some of that stuff as well. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like for real. So we'll get started. By the way, this beer is really good
Oh,
for an
no.
NA beer. Holy shit.
That's
Yeah.
good to know. Good to know.
It's awesome. So for people who don't know, we met at Camp Anakiji. You were my Camp Anakiji sister because I think both our parents dropped us off like the beginning of June and then didn't pick us up to August. We were there for like ever.
Yeah, and
Something like that.
you started as a counselor, right?
Yeah, it was later.
Yeah, so my parents ditched me at 6 years old at camp. And so, I started going for a week, and then I would go for 2 weeks, and then 3 weeks. And then I spent my entire childhood pretty much going to camp, at least 2 to 3 weeks. And then, as I got, even through most of summer, I would be there, all 6 weeks at the time, I think is what they had. So I
Yeah,
basically lived at camp and then started, became a counselor at 12 and worked at the ranch and made a lot of
yeah.
friends as they
What's the first memory you have of camp? Like, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
oh god, probably like running to sign up because they I would do 3 trail rides a day. That's what I did starting at 6 years old. I always ran to make sure I'd be the first in line to be able to pick the horse that I wanted to ride. And I think I always liked to ride General. He was a big white horse. I always liked to ride
Uh,
him. He always liked to be in the front of the trail ride. So I would always kind of rush up there to do that. But yeah, that gave me a lot of, because I didn't have like dogs growing up, and then camp was where I started to actually learn about horses and animals, and that, I mean, literally led into my entire career. So
mm,
thinking about that experience around, and then I did the ranch program as I got a little bit older, and really accelerated in that. I was getting like all the little flags and things, and accelerating through like their program, through the ranch program as a camper, and then as a counselor continued to work there. But it gave me so much as far as behavior and body language, and everything I learned about horses translated into what I did starting with dogs. Once I moved out to Utah, I was like, well, I don't have access to horses, so started volunteering with dogs. But camp literally gave me everything to do with where I am and who I am, and really developed me because, honestly, I spent so much time there. It was just, part of who I am.
yeah, I think about that all the time. It's like just going back there recently with my daughter. It was like I didn't realize how much camp impacted my life until I came back and started thinking about it. You just don't you lose that a little bit, but I grew up so much and I learned a lot about myself at camp. That's what you do. You learn a lot about yourself.
Yeah, and I feel like just such a difference in like our childhood, like us growing up, no cell phones, no, maybe we did, I mean, like, but they were coming out like at that time, like brick,
Yeah. Yeah, the
like
Zach Morris
nobody.
phone.
yeah, nobody had that, so it was just like, and being outside all the time and, being active and, fulfilling those dopamine needs through activities and socialization is just something that I feel is so lacking. And yes, I do that. Probably this conversation is going to motivate me to get my daughter back out there to go to camp, just have that experience. And even for me, like I want to go back and,
Yeah.
and just be there and see it and, just see what
When
it's
was the
all
last time you were there? Do you remember?
about. Probably the last time I was at camp. Like it
Oh,
would have been whatever the last summer was that I was there. Because I haven't been back since. I mean, I haven't even been back to Wisconsin since I think, man, I want to say like my 10-year high school reunion. So
wow.
yeah, because my parents moved out here. They moved out to Utah. So like my whole family ended up moving out after I did because we were big skiers and snowboarders. So I just didn't really have an excuse to go back. My aunt still lives there, out of Burlington. So it's kind of like, I
Why?
have an
Yeah.
excuse to go back. I mean, I have an excuse, but it's just like I just haven't. And I honestly I would love to go back and take my girls and, maybe just run all over the place, come hang out with you, come,
Yeah, that'd be great.
connect with a lot of people. I would love that. It'd be pretty I don't know, almost like a sabbatical,
Yeah, it
like
really would
just
be.
yeah,
But
recreate.
Utah's pretty awesome. Utah low key is probably one of my favorite states.
It's hard to leave, man. It is hard to leave. Belize is a good place to get to, but Utah is really hard to leave. It's
Oh
amazing.
man. Yeah, and it has everything. It really
Yeah.
does. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, if you want the desert, if you want the
Mhm.
rock, if you want the snow, you can get all that, man. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
it's beautiful. I can definitely say over and over again, even I've lived here since 95. So just over and over again, I never get tired of the views. I never get tired of the mountains. I never get tired of the desert. I just don't get tired of it. I do get tired of the
Yeah.
traffic. I do get tired of all the people that have moved here since COVID.
No, I
Um,
bet.
so yeah, I'm planning to move. So I'm planning to make a move out to Steamboat, Colorado, which it's like
Mm,
6 hours from here, but we've already bought a property out there and kind of gonna relocate my little ranch and head
yeah.
out there because I just want a little more quiet, but Steamboat's kind of a fun town. It's, a ski town and but yeah, Utah's getting a little too crowded for me. So I'm ready to just go somewhere else. I've been here a long time.
Let's get into your business. So, like I said, I kind of stalked you a little bit for throughout the years, and I'm just fascinated um, by Heather's Heroes and the story there. So, when did you know that like that was your calling, that you were going to do that? What was the trigger moment? Like, I want to start my own business, and I want to focus on helping animals and specifically dogs.
Well, God, I wish it was that simple. Like, where I'm like, oh, I want to start a business. It just wasn't like that. It literally was a transition of moving from Wisconsin, out to Utah and, just not knowing what I wanted to do. Like, I knew I liked being around animals. I mean, I spent my entire childhood around animals. But, didn't really have dogs growing up, which was weird, or any dog that I did have growing up. You remember the road I lived on? Like Highway
Yeah.
11, very, very busy. It's like, it's kind of like the Pet Cemetery movie, like where everything just like died on the road. So that's what happened. Like every animal I ever had, if we had a dog, it didn't last long. If it got onto that road, forget it. So that was, a lot of trauma for me growing up. So I didn't have dogs growing up, but yeah, I saw an ad in the paper, in the local paper about just volunteering at an adoption event. And I was like, oh, yeah, I could do that. And then literally I went to my first adoption event at the mall and just loved being around the dogs, loved being around the animals, loved talking to people about the dogs, as I got to know them like through the day. Um, and then I just really like from that day, I literally like jumped completely into it. I was volunteering all the time. I was there they had like an adoption center there. I was volunteering like probably 40 or 50 hours a week. I started fostering
Wow.
dogs. Yeah, I started fostering dogs in my own home. And at the time I was going to college and thought, vet school might be on the plate, but it just didn't drive me the way that working in rescue did. And then I developed into running my own large breed and pit bull rescue. So right after college, when I graduated, I bought a retail pet store. So a business that had already been running for like 20 years. I
Mm,
bought that pet store. So it was a pet store and groomery. And then I expanded into the space next door. So I had, 16 kennels in there where I could have my dogs for adoption, right next door. And that's how Canine Lifeline started. But it started as a rescue, and ended up being a large breed and pit bull rescue. So
mm,
I loved large breeds, loved Great Danes, had a lot of big dogs, but every time I would get a call from a rescue, and we have a great network here as far as this, all of the rescues connected. We have best friends in our state, so it's a really big deal. And so I was able to connect with a lot of different rescues, but like the shelters would call and be like, "Oh, we have this mastiff, would you come look at him? Maybe consider him." But then I would have to walk by 10 kennels of pit bulls, and at the time it just wasn't a thing, it just really wasn't a thing. It was like, "Oh, well, what's wrong with that dog? What's wrong with that dog?" Like I didn't think of it any differently than anything else. And so I started taking a lot of those dogs that I saw sitting in the shelter, and they were great dogs, some of them not great, but a lot of them were just great dogs that just didn't get quite the opportunity. So it developed into a large breed and pit bull rescue. And then I just got burnt out. I just got burnt out.
mm.
I was doing like 75 adoptions a month, which is a lot, and a lot of those dogs were still coming to my house. I was still bringing a lot of the dogs home. Some of them were staying at the center, but I just needed to find something else to do. I just couldn't continue with this. So I kind of just started doing a little bit of research into training. I had another trainer reach out to me from California. It's not somebody I like to talk about because this is one of those people in your life that you learn a lot about what not to do. So I don't want to
Mhm.
add more like to, you know, pump him up at all because he's not one of my favorite people. But I did, and I went out and I hung out with him. I worked with him, and then I came back and I literally started training right away. So I, basically kind of slowly shut down my rescue. I started working. The first call I got, I was shaking, and these people were like, "Oh, we want to turn our dog over to you." And I said, "Well, hey, what if I just came and I did a training appointment with you?" So I already had like people contacting me, and the transition from rescue to training was amazing because when people adopt a dog, they don't put in as much as they should to make that dog have a good transition into their home, right?
Mhm.
But when people are coming and seeking me out for training, they already know they have a problem. They already know they
Mm.
have a problem. So it's like, oh, great. Like we have a problem. So as, and then I could charge people, which I was like, wait, you're going to pay me to tell you all the same things that I told people that were adopting from me. So it was just a really easy transition. And then opening, and I moved around. I had a bunch of different facilities, or not a bunch of different facilities, but my first location after the pet store. So I sold the pet store, and then moved to another location just to do training. And this location was like in the middle of like the worst area because it's what I could afford, So it's like
Mm.
anytime there was a shooting or a dead body, like it was within about like a half block of this location. So it was, but people would come, because I was offering something they liked. So people would come.
Yeah.
So, so that kind of just built that out. But it came out of just necessity. Like it just wasn't like, oh, I want to start a business. It was, what can I do to help dogs? And I think to really be good in business, well, depends on what you're looking at, but to create a business and to create something out of nothing, you definitely have to have the passion for it,
Mm.
and I spent a lot of years just being the entity in that business, being the business for a long time. And I feel
Yeah.
like, now looking back, there's definitely a difference between like a business owner, and somebody who is basically creating a job for themselves. So
Mm.
a lot of years, that's what I did is I just created a job for myself, like, okay, this is going to
Yeah.
pay the bills, is going to do that, but it all fell on me, and as the business grew and I went from me to, one other person, then it went from me to 10 other people, then it went from me to 35 other people, at some point I had up to 55 employees. Yeah,
Heather.
yeah. So with both businesses running, like when we were making all of our leashes and that kind of stuff. So manufacturing and like the big training, boarding and daycare. But but then at that point you kind of just start to realize like am I just still creating myself a job, or am I a business owner? And to recognize that and start thinking, what does my life look like going from here? Because physically, I can't keep doing what I was doing in my 20s when I started,
Mm.
you know? So it definitely started to give me the realization that I had to make some changes, and started to do that about 4 years ago. Thinking more of, this isn't a job for me anymore. I need to see myself more as a business owner.
Yeah, but that's a struggle that a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs face is, that transition from, I think a lot of it is we think that we can do, that we have to do everything. We have to carry every hat. We have to
Well,
do it all.
or that nobody can do it like we do.
Right.
Nobody can do it like we do it. And so like letting go, trusting others, I mean, that's a huge step.
Mm,
It's a huge step in that progression and that development. And that's the thing, like in this transition of selling my business, if I would have still been in the position of me being the main load bearer of this business and constantly micromanaging and having my hands in everything, this sale would have been almost impossible,
wow.
because they
That's
can't
crazy.
replace me. They can't
Right.
replace me. But over the last, 4 to 6 years, basically, I've been making sure that, hey, who does this better than me? Who does this better than me? Who does this better than me? Or who can I get to a point that does this better than me? All of my staff at
Wow.
Canine Lifeline, they all do those things better than me. There are certain things that I do, like I'm definitely the innovator. I'm definitely the person that kind of brings a lot of the new creative side to the business. But that's they do that too. We have a very like entrepreneurial mindset in my business that was always pretty big for me. And once I kind of let go of a lot, I realized how much more they were empowered to be invested in the business. Like
Mm,
having employees that act like owners is a good thing. It's a
yeah.
great thing, it's a great thing.
Yeah. Because I mean, at that point, wow, that's really good, Heather. That's really well put. Like, I mean, I think a lot of the people that I've talked to who, they're afraid of losing people, and that could be part of it. That's a reality that they have to face. But if you have a culture that, like you said, um, uh, a culture that has some sort of ownership quality to it, they won't want to leave. They will want to continue to be at your business, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I had to back off, man. Like this is a great pointer. Like there's two books that literally like changed my entire life when it comes to business. One of them is Profit First, by Mike
Okay.
Michalowicz. If you're familiar, I run
Profit
everything I
first.
do. Yeah, Profit First. Everything I do financially, it helps with cash flow issues. Like my business totally changed once I started doing this Profit First system. Because like end of the year, you're looking at a P&L and you go, yeah, my business is profitable, but that money is not in my bank account. So it's basically
Right.
like a behavioral approach to banking and cash flow. And then he also has another book called Clockwork, which is all about time management, delegation, how to get yourself out of the business. And one of the premises of this book is to take a 4-week vacation. And like, think about it. Could you take a 4-week vacation?
My wife would tell me I'm living a 4-week vacation. I'm living a
Okay.
permanent vacation.
Well, then you're probably good on track. So there's two faces I get when I tell people they should do that, right? Like some people are
But
like,
no, like, holy
no
cow, no
way.
way.
Yeah,
No
they're like,
way.
no, absolutely no way. So in the book, like it basically talks about, so for a year, I plan to take a 4-week vacation. A year. So I planned it and I said, okay, I'm going to do it. So for a year, I had to think about everything that I had to put in place to make sure that while I was gone for 4 weeks, and I'm saying a vacation, not I still have my phone, not I still have my laptop, I'm still connected. Hey, let me know if you need anything. No, absolutely not. None of that. So you have to be able to fully disconnect. So for a year, all I did was make sure that I had people in place, learned how to truly delegate, learned how to truly trust,
Mm,
learned how to truly let go and empower the people around me to do that. And, and so for like through that year, like I would take like a little mini break, like, okay, a whole weekend where somebody's not contacting me, like I'm totally disconnected. Like it was scary at first, right?
Yeah.
And then a week. And then by the time I got to when I was supposed to take this 4-week vacation, I was in December. God, I want to say it was 4 years ago. I want to say it was in 2020. Yeah. Which was obviously like a
Oh,
weird,
jeez.
yeah, it was a weird time. So yeah, I actually started the process, right? So I started the process. So talk about a weird time to think about it. But I was like, well, this is the weirdest year I've ever had. So let's do it. And so it was December, and I was like, okay. And everything just felt like it was falling apart. Like it seriously felt like it was falling apart. And I was like, I can't go. I can't. Like look at all this stuff that's going on. Like I needed to be the hero of my business. Like you all depend on me. And I was like, and they're like, no, 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 go. We got it. We got it. We got it. And the premise of it being 4 weeks is, and if you presented it to your employees like, hey, I'm going to take a 4-week vacation, you sound like a jerk, but the premise is actually very good because in 4 weeks, your business will go through all sorts of stuff. You're going to have payroll. You're going to have emergencies. You're going to have things go wrong, and anything less than that, like if you took a week, it's not enough. It's just not enough to really empower the people around you to like do what they need to do, right? So at the very end, right before I bailed, I left, I cut myself off from all connection from the business. And, after that point, it was right over like Christmas and New Year's, like for us and our business, that's like some of our busiest times. During that time, we had emergencies. We had a building flood. We had,
What?
yeah, we had one of our buildings flood. So it was, and they didn't contact me. They handled it themselves. So it was like, and so I had spent the whole year just setting them up to say, hey, what's going to happen if this happens? What's going to happen if this happens? What's going to happen if this happens? And then be able to trust that they can make decisions on their own. And that's true delegation. True delegation is trusting the people around you to make choices, not to have them come back to you. Because if they're coming back to you and making sure it's okay with you, then you never truly delegated that. So,
Wow.
you didn't, and a lot of people think, oh, I'm so good at delegation. No, you're not. If somebody's afraid to make a decision on their own without having to come back to you to ask if it's okay, you didn't delegate that. Like you have to learn how to truly delegate. And that book Clockwork really, really makes it very clear how to do it. And so, yeah, I
Wow.
came back and everybody, like, they missed me, like they missed having me around. But when I came back, the vibe was so different. Everything changed from that day forward. Like everybody felt super empowered. Everybody felt more invested in the business because they felt like they could make decisions and be empowered. And in my business, there is no decision that somebody would make that they would get in trouble for, which, as an employee, it is hard to like not feel like you're going to do something that you're going to get in trouble, or lose your job, lose your livelihood. So that's also a big policy, like, hey, you're not going to get in trouble, especially if you're making a choice. Like if you make a choice and it doesn't go well, that's fine. No big deal. We just go back to whatever. It's not a big deal. And I allow people to make, you got to let them make mistakes. Even if I think it's a horrible idea, I just go, all right, well, let's try it. And if anyone's making horrible decisions in the business, oftentimes it's me. So I make sure that they see that too, that it's, like, wow, that was a really dumb idea. Like, why did I do that? I had no clue. So yeah, I make a lot of dumb decisions. So they get to see me fail a lot too. So it's it kind of goes back and forth. But yeah, no, that was a total game changer. And then I forced my general manager at the time, I forced her the next year. I said, hey, I need you to take time off because you're not getting it. Like you're just not. And so I walked her to my office and I handed her the expo marker and there's my like big calendar on the wall. And I said, pick 2 weeks. And so right over Christmas and New Year's,
Of
fine.
course. Heck
Yeah. And well,
yeah.
it's her birthday and,
Yeah.
it's a busy time.
Oh,
So this was the next year. So for a year, I was trying to get her like, hey, you need to let
wow.
me more. You need to delegate more. You need to be me more, so she just, and she was so mad and fine, everyone's going to hate me. And I was like, okay, like they're not going to. But then guess what? She took that time off and had the same realization that I did, that, hey, when you set yourself up and you set, you know, whether it's you as a business owner, whether it's somebody at more of a higher level, you know, or as this kind of trickles down more, you know, whoever in your business, you want them to be able to take time off and be able to have that freedom. And for her, it was a real game changer too. You know, we talk about it all the time because it was, you know, it was like a year later and I kept pushing her. And now, you know, she is very comfortable taking time off. And now she's a general manager of Canine. So
Wow.
she's taken over as a center manager. And it's a big private equity that ended up taking over our business, but she has a lot of support. And I think without me starting it and without me like engaging it with, you know, with the staff and being able to get them to get more comfortable with, hey man, delegate, you know, delegate, get comfortable with that, get comfortable with taking time off, get comfortable. And I think definitely through COVID, I think we had a lot of realizations of how important it is, you know, to really have mental health days, make sure that you're taking care of yourself because that's going to impact your whole team. It's going to impact your whole team. So yeah, that was a big game changer for me. And that's what kind of set me on the path of not thinking about selling, but being able to.
Mm. Was there, so there wasn't really a point where you were like, I need to sell. It was more of always in the back of your mind, or how did that work? When did you make that decision? Like, you know what, it's time to sell.
Yeah, actually, there was a very big trigger point that happened, and it was absolutely awful. So, you know, I'd kind of thought about it, you know, like I was like, maybe, you know, because I just didn't know what it would look like. And just the last, you know, year and a half, you know, and through COVID, Jesus Christ, and I was pregnant during COVID. I had my daughter in June of 2020. So when COVID actually hit, I was 7 months pregnant and I had
Oh,
54 employees. So it was just, I mean, it just broke me, you know, and like, and working through it. I mean, we did well though. I mean, we ended up, but I mean, coming into it, you know, nobody knew what was going on, and like coming into it and being pregnant, and oh God, it was just so crazy. And so yeah, the stress. I mean, I feel like I aged like 20 years in that
mhm.
1 year, you know, and the ups and downs just of the last 4 years. So when I finally kind of made a decision, you know, I reached out to a business broker and I was like, I just don't know, you know, and just kind of started setting everything up, which I already had, you know, just with the process I just explained, like, hey, I'm not that involved in this side of the business, you know, like I can pretty much, it runs on its own and it would be a pretty big asset to be able to sell. And so I spent you know, a couple months, but then I was going back and forth with the company, and I kind of kept saying no, you know, I don't, you know, I don't think this is
So
gonna.
what year was this, you think? What year, what time
This was
frame?
2023.
2023.
So yeah, 2023. So my business has been for sale since September of 2023.
Okay.
So it's been a long process because right at that time, so I did end up, you know, I kind of pushed off this one company for a while, and then they came forward with an offer that was going to work. But right before that, we actually had a dog get away from a handler and get hit by a car, and the dog survived. Thank God. The dog survived, thank God. But at that point, this is when I had kind of told him, you know, I don't know if I'm ready. But when that happened, the emotional toll, this is gonna make me cry. But the emotional toll of like having to hand the owners back their other dog and
Oh,
know that their other dog is trying to die at the vet. You know, like
oh,
the dog had a punctured lung, had a shattered, you know, full like elbow, and I mean, it was just an absolute nightmare. And no matter how distant I am or was from the business, that responsibility always falls on you, you know, and
mhm.
you're dealing with living, breathing creatures. And I was just like, it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter unless I sell this business. I will always be emotionally responsible when things go
Mm,
wrong like that. And so for me, it was, you know, the financial balancing beam that it's just that it is of running a business, and then layer on the emotional stress of working with living, breathing things was like the breaking point for me. So I was like,
yeah.
yeah, I'm done. So then, you know, and then I went in, you know, went into negotiations. Some things didn't work out. A lot of the big companies stopped doing acquisitions this last year. So I kind of like got in right at the worst time possible. And then this last year was awful. like this last year was very hard for us. Like we had a huge blow up after COVID, everyone's traveling, like we're booked for boarding, for 8 months in advance. And, um, but this last year, like we started having like a really bad February. And I was like, oh my God, if this year, so a lot of fatigue, I think, like a lot of selling fatigue where I, was still going back and forth with some of the buyers, but yeah, everyone kind of stopped everything, election year and just weird
Mhm.
economies. So it really was one of the most difficult years was this year, especially because mentally I was done. I was just struggling to support my team the way that I wanted to. So I felt like that it was a good time. And right now they're super grateful, like, because they've got so much support from this company that took us over. It's an amazing company. They've been in business a long time. They have a lot of other locations. And they love what we do. They love what we do as an entity. So they're not coming in to like blow everything up and change it. They actually want to integrate a lot of what we do into a lot of their other locations. So it's very validating too. Like having them come in and be like, wow, this is one of the best daycares that we've ever seen. Look at how chill the dogs are. And, because we are different. We're training based. So we don't turn dogs away, never have. We deal with some really difficult and aggressive dogs. And, so they're really enjoying that. So
Yeah. How do you balance working with humans and animals?
mhm. Oh
How do you
God, the
balance
animals.
that?
Well, the animals are so much easier, but I would say that a lot of people get into this type of industry because we're weirdos, like we're total weirdos. Like we love animals more than we like people. We can be a bit awkward. And so one of the things that I really thrive in is I just love explaining to people about animals, so if you come into this and you really don't like people, this is not going to be the profession for you. And the balance is being able to be understanding and have empathy, and I've done all of the things. I've lost dogs to tragedy. I've lost dogs that I've had to euthanize because of behavioral issues. So when I'm dealing with somebody that's at that same level and they can see that I am not just telling them, I've lived it myself, and I'm like that soft shoulder to cry on at probably some of the worst days of their lives. I feel like for me is the balance, like I love the dogs, but I really love dealing with the people that are just as invested in their animals as we are. So it's makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah, I would think for me, I don't, I would assume that eventually you almost become a counselor. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
like an actual like therapist.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely. Like marriage counselor, I mean, you
yeah.
think coming in, that there is so much resentment based on this dog that, the husband brought home, the wife's, at home with 3 kids, and the husband, oh, I don't have any problems with this dog. And the wife's like, and so yeah, there's definitely a lot of that. And yeah, I mean, you definitely get kind of your PhD and not just, animal behavior, but also human behavior. And being able to navigate that is what makes like a good trainer great. Like
Mm,
being able to just navigate the complexities that come along with just people in general. But the cool thing is when you can help them with their dog, you can build that relationship. You can really build that relationship pretty easily. And everything that we do is so simple and effective, and it's just easy. So we have a pretty easy route of how we train dogs. And so people come to us after they've seen other trainers, they've had no success, and being able to come to us and have that, I mean, they're forever grateful. So, and I've had some of my best friends have come through my business. I had one dog that was super aggressive. When I met this dog, she had just turned really reactive on the leash, super dog aggressive, and had just turned and literally shredded the woman's leg, like a bunch of bite wounds
mm,
because that just going at another dog. And the woman pulled on the leash and the dog just turned and went after her. And that
whoa.
was that was when we met. So, and this was years and years and years ago. And so this dog, I worked with her, I worked with the dog for years. And then we were able to bring the dog into our socials where she was bringing the dog with her. It's like this big, like controlled dog park, but all of our dogs are there with the owners, which is something that we do that's very unique, like in the world. And so she's there with their owner. And then after the dog passed away, she came to social and she actually gave me her dog's ashes, and oh, it
Whoa.
makes me cry, man. So she gave me her dog's ashes and she's like,
Wow.
without you, this would have never happened because the dog got to live to be 14. Dying
Whoa.
of old age for a dog so aggressive and so difficult is like, it's so, whew, it's hard, it's hard, but
Yeah.
that's just kind of the relationships that you build when you can kind of let your guard down and not assume that people are stupid just because they don't know what to do with their dogs. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the take a lot of trainers make is they
Is that
just,
your favorite success story? Do you have another one?
whew, God, I got a lot of them. That's one. That's definitely one. We've had a lot. I mean, we had one dog, this dog Layla, she always comes to mind. She was 6 years old, never been around other dogs ever, like ever, ever, ever. Super dog, aggressive, reactive. And we were able to get her into our socials. She's able to come and hang out with us at our daycare and be off leash with the dogs, come to our Saturday socials with our owners, which when owners can see their dogs who have never socialized with other dogs before socializing with other dogs, happy tears, man. Like happy
Mm,
tears. Like it brings me so much joy because they just don't have that opportunity. So these guys moved to California, and they're like, oh yeah, where can we go where we can take her and and I'm like, nowhere. Like there's nowhere you can take her. Like, I'm sorry. So, so they tried, and then they moved back. They moved back for their dog so that their
wow.
dog could come to canine. So it was really great. It was really, really great.
Wow. Have you
Yeah.
ever had to tell someone like, I'm sorry, but you probably should not, you guys should not be together. Your animal,
Family.
your animal and your family just aren't meshing.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I have some very difficult conversations with people. We also, have conversations where the dog is so dangerous, and is gonna hurt somebody or kill somebody. And, just like I said, I mean, I've been through that where I had a very aggressive dog that if I would have kept her, I would have never met my husband. I would never have my children because she was so aggressive. It basically, I was living in isolation um,
Wow.
because of her. So I've been in that situation where I have had to euthanize a dog because just too dangerous. And so I do this presentation called Rehab Reality, like, a kind of like a tangible approach to a super emotional issue, like having to behaviorally euthanize an animal. And when
Mm,
I get to that point with clients, and we're having that conversation, and they do make that choice. I'm just a shoulder for them to cry on. I'm not forcing them. I'm not telling them what they should do, but a lot of times they're getting so much negative feedback from other people, like, "Oh, what a horrible person you are." Like happy dogs don't want to kill your children. Happy dogs, don't want to bite you in the
I don't
face.
mean to laugh, but
Yeah,
yeah.
right? But it's the reality. Like, it's like some people
Yeah.
like, yeah, but he only bit him a little bit. And it's like, oh my God, like, are you kidding me? And happy dogs don't want to take your nose off. Happy dogs don't bite you every day. Like, it's just not normal. And, having those conversations, and every time that, the unfortunate side happens where, they do end up euthanizing the dog, they say thank you. They say thank you.
Mm,
They send thank you cards. They come in and we have a big cry and a big hug, and they realize like how much stress and pressure and guilt, that dog was bringing into their lives. And, it's not fair for the dog. It's not fair for
mm,
them. And so I've had a lot of conversations like that where even in the worst and the darkest moments, just being there for people, is
mhm.
powerful, and it's not for everyone. Not everyone can do that, and a lot of young trainers, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, I can fix that, I can fix that, I can fix that. I'm like, all right, well, the reality is unless that dog can live to die of old age, without killing a child or ripping off somebody's arm or biting again, you haven't succeeded. So
Mm,
it is the reality that dogs are semi-domesticated predators, and they can do damage, and they can kill, and they can hurt, and they can maim. So just being there for people when they're in a hard place is something I'm
yeah,
at.
you are. Do you uh, one of the things I always wanted to ask is you know with you, with the business, um, were you ever able to kind of um, reflect on, you know, not just that you're helping the animal and the human and their owner, right? But like you're helping a community at whole. Was that part of what you're like? Because I, when I look on Facebook and your social media, you have such a huge community of
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And was that part of what you were trying to do? Like, probably not, but you know what I'm trying to say. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Was
Yeah.
that something that was that like a very just organic thing, or like was that intentional because we need a community to help everybody through this?
Yeah, no, I definitely feel like a community is so important, especially, because I started working with such difficult and aggressive dogs, like people that were coming to me were so isolated, like
Mm,
super isolated that they didn't have a community. They
hmm.
couldn't take their dog for a walk around other dogs. They couldn't take their dog, to the dog park. They can't do those things. So one of the things that I'm really proud of with Canine Lifeline is how much of a sense of community, like I would consider, Canine Lifeline just the gem of our community, because we have been able to bring so many people together through, dogs and their passion for dogs. And even when they have a difficult dog, I mean, the first time they come to those Saturday socials and we're all there, and clients that have been coming for years, are there and supporting them, like, oh, and then all the dogs come off leash. And a lot of times I put some of my older clients that have been coming for a while, like with difficult dogs, I put them with like the new clients, and I'm like, hey, I really wanted you guys to meet, this is so and so, and Peanut's been coming a long time, and yeah, we know what it's like to have your first dog. So it's kind of like a big like AA meeting, like, oh, my name is Heather and I've got a difficult dog. And so people feel really welcome into our community, where when you are struggling or even not struggling, sometimes it's just really cool. Even in our small dogs and puppies socials, we have a group of women that we call the board of directors, because it's just
Mm.
like a group of like older women that have these like little dogs, and they just want to come and walk around in the social. But they've all become best friends, and they all go out to lunches. And I don't think I've had anyone get married yet, but we've definitely made a lot of connections like through that. So yes, community is huge. And then every Sunday we do a handling class, like a walking class. So everybody comes down, and, we just go out and chit chat and support each other. So yeah, community, if, yeah, I mean, the community is just the biggest part of it, I think. And that's what I
Mm.
know keeps bringing people back, because there's one thing just to have a boarding and daycare facility. But if you never get to see who else is involved in that community, it's very different. So the programs that we run, those Saturday socials and the walk the walk handling class, is really a great opportunity to bring people together and get to see each other face to face and with their dogs.
Yeah. It seems like it's a technique that you can use not just for the animals, but for the people.
Oh,
Just for
absolutely.
other people, period. Like that's a great just thing, period. Is for
Yeah,
everybody
I
just to
feel
get
like any
together.
any business, like you really need to thrive on the community. Like if you're not focused on that and you don't care about the people in your community, it's not going to go well for you, because
Mhm.
you want people to become your advocates. Like we don't have to push ourselves out there. We haven't done marketing at all for Canine. Like, yeah, I do it for Heather's Heroes, but that's because we're global, right? But for Canine Lifeline, like we don't have to do any marketing because everybody in our community supports us, and we're the first one that comes up, like, hey, what, and now, I mean, in the last 22 years I've been running Canine, I mean, now there's trainers everywhere, there's daycare facilities. When I started, this wasn't a career, like dog trainer was a hobby. My parents forever were like, when are you gonna get a real job? I'm like, I just made my first million, back off. And it wasn't a career, but now, now it is. So there's a lot
Yeah,
out there, but yeah, we're still at the top of our game. But yeah, community is so important, and
yeah,
building that's huge.
it totally is.
Mhm.
What's next for Heather?
Oh
What's next?
gosh. Yeah, I'm still settling into this like half retired situation, which is kind
Yeah.
of weird. So honestly, I feel like well, I know what I really want to focus on, and what's been my passion, for a while, is the Heather's Heroes side. So the sidekick leash, getting that out there. We just got signed on with chewy.com. So that's huge. Like that's a huge step for us. We're also on Amazon, but that's, kind of how we made that happen. Getting it out there more, really just helping more people. And the educational side. So I'll be out and about, if people want to come and work with me in person, I'm going to be doing a lot of speaking engagements. I'm going to be doing a lot of different workshops, kind of traveling through the country and probably the world. I think I might make it to the other side of the world, hopefully in 2025. So that'll be pretty entertaining. And yeah, just kind of continuing the educational stuff. So Heather's Heroes has incorporated a lot of the online courses. So I've got some online courses on there. I'm just working on, I was literally just filming some of the other videos about a socialization, daycare course. And then I've got the Become Your Dog's Heroes course, which is just for average pet owners. And then also certification course. So I am building a Heather's Heroes certified trainer army. So, people that, want to become, or if they are trainers and they want to like incorporate this kind of style and simplicity of what I do into what they're doing, it's a great opportunity for them. So definitely the educational side and just put myself out there more because it's scary, it's scary putting yourself out there. But I think I'm just at that age now where I'm like, I don't care. Like, judge me, hate me, love me, whatever you want to do. I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
I love it. I would also suggest, because you're a wealth of knowledge. And I'm serious about this. I would love to talk to you more after this about helping business owners, just in general. I think you have so much knowledge. Like, I could talk to you for another hour and a half just on your knowledge about business.
Yeah, and it's probably in the works. I've done a lot of business mentoring, like a little bit of one-on-one. During COVID, I did a program called 7 Summits where I was doing a lot of online mentoring. And then even like the TV show that I was on, The Blocks, that was all different types of entrepreneurs. And that was really challenging, but I did realize that what I know through running a business, there's a lot of valuable information there. So I feel like that may be something that I may do in person. I may do something online, but I enjoy that. I really like helping other people, not have to struggle. I mean, what's the point? You don't have to struggle. You can find mentorship, and I do love to mentor. I do love to help. So yeah, I could definitely see that being part of me moving forward.
That'd be great. If you were to go back to Camp Anakiji back in the day, what's the first thing you would do?
Oh, what's the first thing I would do?
Yeah.
I'd probably go over to the corral and hang out with the horses. Then
Cinnamon?
maybe take a sailboat out. I sailed a lot too. Back in the day, I flipped over a lot of those boats. I probably ruined a lot of them. I like to go really fast. So yeah, I'd probably go to the corral, hang out with the horses, and then I'd probably shoot out on the lake somewhere, maybe go take a little trip around the island. Be great.
What would you tell your 16-year-old self if you could go back there?
Oh God. What would I tell my 16-year-old self? Uh, I don't know, man. I would say just enjoy it. Just enjoy the time that you have here because it seems to go by so fast, I still feel like that. I still feel like I'm 16,
Mhm.
So it's the time between then and now, yeah, it
I'm
just
telling
doesn't change much.
you.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
just enjoy it.
I want a real funny dog story they can
Oh,
think of.
oh
Real
man,
funny.
on the spot. Sheesh, real funny dog story. Well, most of the real funny ones are like involved with poop. So I don't know. You want to,
That doesn't matter.
yeah, you want to entertain that. I'd say,
Our audience is used to that.
all right, I'll give you one that just happened today. So I've got this new puppy, right? So they always say that dogs have like this really great sense of smell, right? And so I always find it comical. And I was laughing today, like, so, the new puppy, and then here is my dog's butt, right? They just kind of like, so she like literally pushes her nose completely all the way up my other dog's like butt. And I'm like, why are you doing that? You're supposed to have this amazing sense of smell. Is there a reason that you actually have to touch? And it's, dogs are just gross. So there's a lot of grossness that comes with dogs. But I personally always find it funny that I'm like, you don't have to touch. Like you can sniff from a distance. So a
All
little
right,
bit
we're almost
of fun.
time to go. One more camp question.
All right.
If you had, if you're at camp and you had a counselor and that counselor was a dog, what breed of dog would that counselor be?
Oh, definitely a golden retriever. Like goofy, happy, fun times, like would have to be a golden retriever. I think most of us were as counselors, I feel like
Oh yeah.
We were all pretty fun. Like we had an amazing group of people and I don't know, man. I think our time at camp, really led to a lot of just great times and memories. I hope people that go to camp now, I hope that they are still creating those kind of things. Like I don't know if
Yeah.
it's just our generation or what, but yeah, definitely happy go lucky golden retrievers, all of us.
Love it. All right,
Yeah.
Heather, promote yourself, promote what you're going to be doing, promote anything you want.
Well, I'll be around doing workshops. If you guys have questions, I've got a lot of the online stuff going on. So just find me at heathersheroes.com. All my information is there, and I'm happy. Find me on social media. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. The other thing we didn't talk about, I've got a camel ranch, so canine cattle and
Oh,
camel
geez,
ranch.
that's right. I did
Yeah,
see
that's
that.
that's a whole nother thing I got going on. So I do have camels. So you'll see all of that stuff on there. I also do teach workshops when it comes to learning more about camels, and I love to teach dog people how to handle camels because it's super similar. But yeah, find me on social media. I'm pretty available. I'm not. I'm pretty accessible. So I love when people reach out. I love when people want to connect. So find me.
Awesome. Heather, thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh,
It
Ben, thanks
was
for having me.
awesome. Let's stay connected.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
come out to Wisconsin. Now I have another reason to come out. So
There
thank
you
you.
go. Awesome. All right, for people, thank you everybody for watching. Thank you everybody for listening. We will see you all next time. Bye bye.
Watch out now. I'm ready for a good time, and I came to groove. The whole band's here, and we came to move. Got a fresh